welcome everyone to part 3 of Adventures in Reality with your host, the Galactic historian Andrew Bartzis. And joining me for part 3 is Veronica Keene. Welcome back, Veronica. How you doing today?
It's wonderful to be back. Last evening, it was so exciting. I couldn't sleep last night. I was reliving the whole thing. Very, very exciting. Our plans are wonderful.
Yeah, it was a wonderful response that we've gotten from the audience, and I want to thank everyone out there. And just a reminder, the first video had some audio issues. They're all cleaned up. They're back out there. So anybody that's out there that's linking the videos, it is there for you. We'd like everyone to begin to share this. Today we're going to be talking more about the Irish history, and as we get deeper and deeper into the questions, we are going to reveal whole new layers of information, as well as the YouTube live link. You guys can make comments on there, and we enjoy comments. Please make comments. You can also go to the Facebook comment page on this for the show and also make comments over there. We are looking for your feedback. Veronica and I are going to do a second series after this, another 3-part series, where we're going to go so in depth into the Irish history, to the sacred geometry systems, and how our world is based off of what's going on at Enoch or at Tara Hill or any of the other major sacred sites all throughout Ireland, as well as those parts of Ireland that are still under the sea. There are islands all around Ireland that are just mountaintops sticking out, but there's great vast valleys just a few hundred feet below the water, and there is where the other part of the Irish history we will learn about. So Veronica, let's talk the early Irish history.
Well, when I went to school, it concentrated on St. Patrick coming to Ireland and converting the Irish to Catholicism. That's what we had drummed into us. Our real history was never taught to us at all. Not properly, anyway. Everything was slanted towards how lucky we were to be Roman Catholics. And really, most Irish people are ignorant of their history, and that includes me. And it wasn't until Monty died and he explained that the Irish history is extremely important, and it was changed, and we have to look at why it was changed. And you are the only person I've been able to say, right, Andrew, tell us the truth about Ireland, because I know there is so much we need to learn about it. And Monty still says, Ireland is the key that will unlock everything. And I really believe it. He is right, yeah.
100% right.
I know.
And for me to help people mentally in here, to figure out in here how important Ireland is, we have to understand the context of where we are currently at right now. As you've just said, there is a history that is false, that has been enforced upon the Irish people. Yes. This is global wide. This is not just the Irish, it's the natives of India, the Native Americans, the Mesoamericans, the Canadians, the Inuit, everywhere, all throughout the world, have all had their particular history stolen and rewritten by the local conquerors and victors, until at one point in time, a group of master victors began to rewrite the history of the world, and there began this East versus West, North versus South concept, which created the 7 factions of the 7 continents, which created ultimately the 7 different functions of our races with the different black, white, so on and so forth. Now, we are in the present moment where all of that propaganda spread over many millions of years comes to a due date where there's an end to the system that created it in the first place, which is us, 54 million years ago, during a massive remedy and resolve process, decided to go through the understanding of free will at the universal level as little micro beings who had figured out how to affect macro universe is, as in multiple. Mm-hmm. And with that, a little less than 500 trillion of us beings entered what's called the Galactic Ascension Machine. There's 66 separate planets that all were creating the major timeline drama genocides. All of those beings who came here, and then their planets were brought into this massive quarantine field, any other being who was affected by them via karma or ancestral karma, if they wanted to resolve it, they had to come here. For them to come here, they had to make a very specific choice. Once you go in, you go in. If you leave before you're done, you do not get to take a copy of your Akashic record with you. And you will still leave soul shards in there as part of the remedy and resolve process. So now we have an inter-universal faction of those that are inside and those that are outside. Those that are outside using learning free will, different perspective in the last 54 million years. And us on the inside learning free will at a very different perspective, at the micro to macro perspective. So here we are. Where do we start with our truth? How do we unlock what it is we've been doing for these last 54 million years? Tara Hill is the first concept of a lock tumbler. You're putting a key into a lock, and there are a series of tumblers that the key goes over, and then all the tumblers go in place, and all we have to do is turn the key. Right now, the key is 99% in. Okay?
Wow.
We must understand why it won't go that last 1%. The 1%, which we hear 99 versus 1% all the time, this concept is coming out for very specific multidimensional reasons, that 1% controls the exchange for value system that all beings live on. Therefore, that 1%, as long as it does not consent and does not agree to end the machine, no one else gets to end, because we must all get our slips to leave here, our stamp on our universal passport that all beings finish simultaneously. And what you do and heal from there will be your free-willed choice based off of your full 54 million years of experience here. The great healing of Earth is once the quarantine feels down and the healing is done and the people begin their free-willed path, the record of each individual, as the 500 trillion that were here, will present a universal Akashic record of what it means to go through free will at all levels of the experience. Our Akashic records will be shared at a universal level and a cross-universal level, so beings truly know what we did here, and nothing will be for the naught. Nobody's experience of from abuse to intensities will be for the naught, because there will be trillions upon trillions upon trillions of future generations of universal beings learning free will who will go to that record and see us as the teachers of that neutral Akashic record from our experience. That is what is at stake here at a universal scale. Multiple belief systems crossing over. What is Ireland? Ireland represents the most important part of the Earth system of original foundation before domination and control took effect. Domination and control had to see Earth as a positive unity consciousness species and begin to infect it at its most basic level. So 51 to 54 million years ago, it was when the very beginning infesting came here to begin to change us, so that our dream world we were created, that was the remedy and resolve process, became the more dominant reality here, and the passive reality that the Lemurians began to experience and the Atlanteans began to experience as timeline genocide created 4 separate timelines. Ireland exists on all 4 timelines, and it crosses all dimensions and time streams, because Ireland is where all of the multidimensional portals into the Agarthan network are existing, and the technology underneath Tara Hill, under Ishnok, under Dublin, under the ocean is a hive, an ant hive of getting into tunnels that lead you into other sets of tunnels that give you into a 12-dimensional fortification system. So there are beings of 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th density who can live deep inside of Earth through 12 fortifications of reality protection. That is the first key to understand what Ireland is. Ireland is the key to the vault. The vault of what? All of our other soul shards that are locked in timeline fallout shelters. When the different passive to active realities were crossing over, and the reality of Earth was breaking down from the Lemurian expression into the new system of domination and control, which began taking over our DNA memories and began programming future lives for us. And the battle for that between good and evil began to overlay in the Irish history. It is the Irish lands itself, when consecrated properly, that the last part of the vault is open, and the different beings who are existing in the hollow earth can begin reintegrating their soul shards through these timeline fallout shelters, which will be turned into ambassadorial places of high quality, where the different beings from the other parts of the universes who are missing their soul shards because they're still in the timeline fallout shelters because they chose not to be in the galactic ascension machine. So it's a massive place of soul shard banks. And that's what the system of domination control has been absolutely making sure that the rest of the universe doesn't have all of their other pieces parts, because they, in vanity, they wanted to be the most important puzzle piece to this universal expression of brand new sovereign free will.
Dear Lord, I had no idea. I knew it was important, but I didn't realize that important.
Well, once you get under Tara Hill and you start getting into the
Mm.
deep tunnel systems, these are multidimensional tunnels. You can
Yes.
travel to other worlds via these tunnels. These tunnels were created by the master builders, knowing that their world would be under invasion, physical reality invasion, reality itself altering effects, and that these tunnels had to be immune to tens of millions of types of different warfares that hadn't even been conceived yet. And that's why Earth became Fortress Earth. And that's why this system of domination control has reached its peak now, because we kept fortifying and fortifying and fortifying it because of the invasions that we kept seeing coming and coming and coming by our far-sighted oracles that over 60 million years and 40 million years ago. Ireland
My,
is where the far-sighted oracles met in the different sacred spaces so that they could see what soul shards needed to be inside the soul vaults so that the machine itself could start like an engine, like turning on a key and the engine goes dun dun dun, and it starts going. And those soul shards inside there aren't the fuel, they're the cargo until the end. We, the surface, are the fuel, manifesting, co-creating beings in a reality set of rules, trying to function with two layers of sacred geometry grids, one the natural sacred geometry earth grid, and the other the false Masonic sacred geometry grid that was created over many hundreds of thousands of years.
my goodness.
Ireland is where we can begin to reprogram all of the sacred geometry grids. All roads lead to Rome. That is a term that hijacks the concept that, in actuality, all of the tunnels, all of the energetic tunnels that connect to the Earth's birthing system, lead to Ireland. And there are master control chambers under the Irish continents, a continent that's in there, deep, deep in ground, that these master chambers help reactivate the different womb chakras, which I've spoken about many, many, many times.
Mm-hmm.
These womb chakras allow DNA changes to go upon their surfaces for the natural DNA changes. It is also where we can hijack the hijack system back again by bringing our intentions to the surface and actually changing the energy of the surface lines so that the original Earth grids begin overtaking the sacred geometry Masonic grid.
Good God. And
We are the
I
we
can't,
are the psychic antibodies to this false system that's trying to be traced over us.
yes, yes. I can't wait to take you there.
Well, me neither. I can't wait also.
I know. My God. This is so incredibly exciting. And the whole world, you know, they all love the Irish. And everybody loves Ireland except England.
Well, they can't because London is what the Isle of Wight should have been. The Isle Wen Wight, all of those other isles.
Yeah.
What those are places that the psychic telescope system was placed on Earth, because Earth can make hundreds of temporary third eye concepts, third eye chakra concepts over a specific land, and those
Hmm.
beings that are there have tremendously enhanced far sight, and they create these pieces of technology called the psychic telescope that allow them to remote view, remote experience, and remote time travel anywhere in the universe and view multiple planets at once and overlay all their timelines so they can see a precise point in a predictive model when two species in domination and control might meet. And then they would timeline travel to that point and prevent two separate systems of domination control from ever meeting in a process of remedy and resolve, which would mean they'd literally do something in their timelines to make sure that these two exploring species of domination control never actually met, but went separate ways.
Yes.
And that was what the Isle of Wight, Isle of Man, and many of the other Irish isles outside there were able to do. They're called the Green Isles for a very specific reason, because they can bring the heart space of Earth to a specific place instead of the remote assassination systems that I was talking about before. They learned another way to do it, but they had to learn the way of the zealot before they could learn the way of peace. And it's the Irish who changed the technology. Well, the Irish concept of then, who were temporary skin suits housing of those people, or housing the very powerful knowledge spirits to come forward, so that they could begin demilitarizing the remote assassination systems into bringing a heavy duty frequency of Earth, heart, love, and dream space over a wide section of the galaxy, and that anything moving through it would have a very tough time if they were negative dense sensors. In fact, many of them would just leave because the reality rules are so vitally different from them. And those
Hmm.
other beings that accept love understand that it is a peaceful force, and they are greatly enhanced when they go through these fields. And they can set up a massive fencing system over thousands of planets or millions of planets that could prevent the rapid exchange of domination and control. Again, you can see it as a like antibody system at a galactic level.
Hmm. My God. And what can the man in the street do now?
Walk your feet over the lands. Bring your
Yes.
prayers, bring your intentions, bring your concept of what a ceremony is. Begin practicing spiritual cleanliness. Begin understanding that the world that you lived in, particularly in London, is really a haunted place,
I
and
know.
that it takes the people and their attentions and their heart space to begin to free this trapped energy there that has been trapped there by ancestors who created a sacred geometry system, knowing full well that the future ancestors would have a toxic spiritual environment to inherit.
My goodness. Well, sooner we take action, the better. But can you tell us more about the past history of Ireland? Bring us right. Why did Rome decide to destroy Ireland? I mean, they're still doing it through the banks.
Well, they're doing that worldwide, particularly the Irish people.
Yes.
The Druids and the Romans had a very special relationship before the Romans became a conquering species. In
Right.
fact, there was this incredible trade of sacred geometry technology. I liken it to this concept of an intergalactic antiques roadshow.
Uh-huh.
You ever seen the show Antiques Roadshow?
Yes, I have.
Well, that's what the Romans were doing. They were trading with the Druids, the Egyptians, the South Americans, the Mesoamericans, to plunder the world of the sacred geometry technology that many of these other people didn't really know it was sacred geometry, but the
Hmm.
Druids did, and they were playing the same game. And what they were doing is trading lost pieces of technology that had crashed here or had been stored here with specific species in exchange for DNA, their DNA, off-world DNA, so that they
Hmm.
can begin their own breeding process here separately of those system that was trying to control here. So they're all playing each other at all times. And Rome got a kick in the butt when it got some timeline viewing technology that it recovered from um, the Alexander the Great era. I have to be
Hmm.
very, very careful what I say on Alexander the Great. Our reality is just not ready to
Yeah.
understand what went on in that phase of history. The Roman Empire was the legacy beneficiary of all of the experiences of the Alexandrian conquering, and all of the technology they had, they began to take from the Greeks, take from the Macedonians, and they just began this massive, massive bazaar of sacred geometry technology, physical technology, psychic technology, and they gained power enough to make deals with other timeline controlling technologies so that they can convert from a government to an everlasting religion.
Yes. So
Ireland
that's.
Ireland represents a group of independent time travelers who can stick the thorn in the side of the church at many different timeline levels and all four paradoxes. And if Rome doesn't do whatever it can do to make sure that the proper Irish soul families don't live on all four timelines, but are separated on all four timelines and are refugees all over the world and are considered, the lame ducks of society,
That's
then
right.
they're doing their job to make sure that those ancient time travelers couldn't manifest in our world again unless they manifested through the Catholic Church that existed there in Ireland.
Mhm. My goodness. That is, the church has so much to answer for. And it's all based on a myth. They created the fairy story of Jesus.
Mm-hmm. You there? I believe I've lost Veronica. Hmm. The gremlins have reappeared. And up, she is back. Hold on just a second. One gremlin down. Two gremlins down. And are you back, Miss Veronica? No, you are not. So I am going to be here talking until the gremlins allow Veronica back. So she was talking about the history of Ireland. I want people to imagine Ireland as the big island that it is. And view it, see it in your mind, and know that as you recede the waters, there are great plateaus just above the great mountains that represent there. And that's about 200 feet of water. And those plateaus around there are the absolute key to understanding. That is the major, major, major landing point separate of Giza. That is where we, as the independent Lemurians and the independent Atlanteans still functioning in time travel, used as our anchorage foundation for recreating all of our future realities. Take that into mind for a second, recreating all of our future realities. It's their anchor point into the worlds. That's what represents Tara Hill. Was a place that separate spiritual contracts, separate spiritual agreements can be created so other beings can begin to live on all four timelines and begin battling these overpowering systems of domination and control so that we can see the other aspects that were trying to be created here other than this overwhelming concept of light and dark forever in battle with each other. Just a second here. I'm getting a message from my producer. All right, so I'm not sure where Santi is. Just a second here. All right. All righty. So I'm live on Google Hangouts and just chilling. So if people would like to make comments, you can go ahead and make comments and we'll begin to answer them. We'll get Veronica back here in just a few seconds here as our intrepid tech support team battles the various gremlins that are out there. So Irish history. Irish is connected to the Egyptian history, the pharaohs. As Veronica was saying in the last two interviews, Egyptian pharaohs, Egyptian mummies have been found all throughout the Irish Isles. Let's ask why. The Egyptians, who believe that you go to the different phases of their underworld through a boat. Boat island. What might happen if a very powerful metaphysical teacher of the Egyptian spirituality decided that they wanted to go to the greatest intersection of portals for their death, so that their next death that they had would be next life they had would be greatly enhanced by the expression in their death and their burial, which would allow their ka, their ba, and all their other experiential bodies to once again be returned to the natural order of Earth. Veronica, you are back.
Yes, thank God.
There we are, and welcome back.
Thank you, my
I was
dear.
just I was just talking about the connections between the Egyptians and the Irish, how different Egyptian relics and artifacts and mummies have been found all throughout the Irish Isles, and why an
Yes,
Egyptian would want to be buried in the Irish Isles.
yes.
Okay.
The You carry on.
Okay, I was just saying there are many powerful metaphysical Egyptian societies that decided that they didn't want to be buried in the reality of the pyramids, but wanted to be buried in the original reality rules because they knew that the sacred geometry pyramid system wasn't the original system.
I see.
And then they would take their boat or their spiritual boat to the Irish Isles, which was actually their death trip when they know that death was coming, because in the sacred books of death, they knew when their death was coming.
Uh-huh.
They knew when their contract for their death was come. So what they would do is they'd get on these boats, hundreds of these at a time, powerful metaphysical teachers, and they'd leave Alexandria, or they'd go down the Nile, and they'd go in a type of consciousness exploration boat. And the energies of the boats and the water and the explorers that were on there would overtake the wood, and they'd literally fade out of reality, and they'd skip 100 miles and end up in the ocean, and then skip another 100 miles and end up by Gibraltar, another few hundred miles and end up out by Spain, and a few thousand miles be right on the coast of Ireland, with but a few sleeps for them, because they could leapfrog with their dreaming abilities whatever vessel they had on any waters that they wanted to.
Mm.
Water is the portal of creation.
Yes. Yes.
And they'd come here to die, so that their life, their ka, their ba, and all the other Egyptian expressions of the 9 layers of experience would then be bound into that land of the original foundation grid. So their next incarnation wouldn't be in the false system, but in be the actual system, which would then return them to an indigenous society that still had oral historians and keepers and people that had the special talents to make sure that our race history survived.
How very interesting. You do know that Tutankhamun's DNA is 98% Irish?
Yes, I did.
Yes. That they wanted to keep secret.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of the Israeli peoples would learn that the specific rabbi DNA exists in Ethiopian and South African people, all throughout their indigenous lands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why would they want that known? That would mean that their pure bloodlines of the Hasidic Jews isn't a pure bloodline. It never was.
I know
It was
that.
a belief system.
Exactly. Exactly. Monty told me that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
So what else do you want to know about Irish history?
Well, did life originate in Ireland?
No. Life is very difficult to explain how it started on Earth, because it didn't start as a first natural incarnating species. We didn't go through the advanced evolutions that Darwin described. Other worlds do go through that expression. We didn't. We started as a manufactured world via spirit that manifested reality, that held space for a very powerful spirit that is the Earth Mother to come in, inhabit, and rapidly alchemize a world, so that trillions of life could just transfer from one reality directly to it, like direct teleportation to a reality, and literally massively manufacture the reality instead of it going through the trillions of years of evolutionary experience. And then the trillions of beings that came here were considered the first species, but they weren't the first incarnating species. And Earth hasn't had a really first incarnating species until the temporary Neanderthal skin suit that allowed timeline genocide victims to come back into a reality that had no original ancestors, so they could recreate the original ancestors. Ireland, Canada, South America, Bolivia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, Japan, Australia, and the American West were the seed places for the temporary Neanderthal skin suits to be reinserted into a timeline that had no original ancestors. So the first species of Earth is technically all of us who survived timeline genocide, but Earth itself has never actually generated its first species, and it won't be able to do that until we finish here and she can separate as a planet. Earth isn't one planet. It's tens of thousands of planets layered over top of each other, waiting to separate, because she's a galactic seed planet. Her purpose is to bring DNA life to brand new blank Akashic record worlds that new powerful souls are going to come into, and then souls can direct incarnate into DNA skin suits that were created here on Earth conceptually by the beings that live here.
Yes. Now, right throughout history, they cannot give credit to anybody Irish for doing anything.
Correct.
I know that St. Brendan discovered America. That's where Newfoundland gets its name.
Mm-hmm.
He sailed from Skellig Islands off the coast of Kerry, and he found America. But no, They tell you that it was St. Columbus, hundreds
Well,
of years later, who did it.
they knew about it. The sacred
Yeah,
geometry orders knew that the Native Americans existed. There are Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyons and in northern Montana. There the Cree Indians of northern Canada speak Israeli. So they speak a Jewish language.
yep,
They cross-pollinated. The Japanese landed all over the Pacific Northwest. The Aboriginals and the Solomon Island natives and the Polynesians are all over South America, Mesoamerica, and North America, and even into the Caribbean. The African Americans made it to South America, to Australia, to India. They all had intertrading, and it just
yes,
wasn't allowed to be in the taught history.
yes,
And when we allowed it to be in the when we allow it to be in the potential of taught history, we'll see that we never lost communication. It was hijacked from us. As the societies had to go from living on the oceans to living in the mountains to living back on the oceans to living back in the mountains because of the rise and falls of the water,
yep,
which was a creational process of reality change, thus the flood and all that.
hmm,
In reality, the flood, I have when the Bible was created, they used existing expressions and they manufactured literally a flood through
yep,
timeline genocide. And it's the Irish people who suffered many disasters during that time because they were the high technological and high spiritual society protecting Earth at that time from a dual system that was trying to overwrite their reality. And the
yes,
Druids were the legacy beneficiaries of that, and the Egyptians were the legacy beneficiary of the system of domination and control, which was trying to be the dominant reality and make the Druidic expression or Celtic expression of natural Earth be the passive expression, and then the creation of the sacred geometry system to widen that difference between the two. And then the battle between the Druids and the Romans began, and then the system of slavery became between there, where they began identifying the people in the Druidic expression as numbers, which took away their ability to incarnate, which stuck them in a system of debt by the new banking system that was being created, so that the spiritual worlds began to use exchange for value in the physical world. It was a massive change in the way the astral worlds interacted with the reality worlds.
my God, what evil minds.
Yeah, but we agreed to this. Again, it comes back to as we as a
Yeah,
species in unity consciousness agree to this, and we as a species in unity consciousness can stop it immediately by expressing your sovereign free will and saying, no, you cannot harvest my energy. No, you cannot determine my quality of my life. I am a sovereign free willed manifesting co-creating being of the infinite and not of the finite.
we are going to do it.
Absolutely.
We're going to teach the world to do it.
Hmm.
And they're ready, and that's what's wonderful. Oh my God, Ireland needs to wake up. Mind you, Enda Kenny, the Prime Minister, when he made the speech last year condemning the child abuse in Ireland by the priests and, demanding that the Vatican answer his
Hmm.
accusations. Monty, I tell you, this house was alive with spirit. And Monty kept shouting in my ear, he has opened a door that can never again be closed.
Yep.
He opened the door to the Vatican.
Hmm.
Up to then, nobody dared criticize it.
In Ireland, correct.
Exactly.
There were
Dare.
other countries who dared, and
Yeah.
those countries that dared, you can see what happened. The child abuse in their organizations got 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, Ireland didn't actually ask the Vatican ambassadors to leave their country for a while as part of the threat.
Yep.
Yep.
I know. I know. I know. You see, if you understood, well, you do, the control of the Irish mind. And everybody watches everybody else. You've got to go to Mass. Why didn't you go to Mass? You know, I didn't see you at Mass. Now all that is ending. That's just going now. But we were controlled to such a degree. It was it was the norm. You accepted it.
Hmm.
Now They are rejecting it at last. And the Irish people are ready to wake up. And we're going to help them. Now, the history, what history should we look at? Irish history should we look at now?
What part of Irish history should we look at?
Should we look at? That's
Uh,
important for us to look at and remember.
I'm gonna scan here. There's a potential for a misunderstanding, and the type
Yes.
of misunderstanding is Ireland has been under so many massive timeline attacks that almost cause additional paradoxes. It was a massive, massive battleground, like a World War I trench warfare, but on a timeline scale.
Mm-hmm.
So there's tens of millions of time travelers that caused major benefits and disasters throughout the Irish expression. And it's ultimately the church and the post system and the time travelers from the church that forced the mass evacuation of the Irish Isles, which included the ancestors off the land. So
Yes.
once they vacated the ancestors off the land, the newly dominated, controlled people that were reincarnating on that land were coming from a London expression of sacred geometry. So all those beings that were dead and that were ghosts that were trapped in the London expression suddenly found the light, got a 5% life review, and all of a sudden were Irish babies being born on a farm during the potato famine.
Yes.
There's like a big bank of ghosts all throughout London and Thames and all throughout there. They did that on purpose. They wanted the dead to be trapped in their cities. And this is all throughout the major sacred geometry cities. They do the same thing. They trap the dead in the energy of the buildings, and then once they need to rapidly reincarnate in a place because they're kicking the ancestors of a particular place out, they can force reincarnate those people who are stuck in those buildings, those dead people or ghosts who are stuck in the sacred geometry buildings. So the biggest thing, I mean, this is going to be hard to physically prove, which would be the creation of the Titanic, which was at 1913 to 1917.
Mm-hmm.
So they built a number of ships. That would be the most important time to see, because that's when all of the big timeline travelers would be manifesting in Dublin, would be manifesting all throughout the Irish Isles, so that the metal skill workers were there because Titanic was a massive, massive, massive
Mm-hmm.
need in the timelines, and
Yes.
the metal that came to Ireland was enchanted with the Irish Isle energy, and when it sailed the ocean, it was doing very positive good, and that's why it was sunk with all those bankers that were on it. It was a massive setup of timelines that would even crush the Irish energy resistance that was trying to reconnect two separate sacred geometry grids with a massive vessel that was built by Irish hands.
My God.
So that would be the most important time to look at what's going
Yes.
on in the local histories of Ireland there, because the amount of UFO sightings, the amount of timeline travel
Yes.
incidents, that would be key.
Yes. Down off the coast of Cork, the Cove area, there is a lot of activity
Yep.
there,
Yep.
UFO activity. Yes.
But there are underground bases there that were left
Oh.
over from the Atlantean expression that many different species use now. They're full reality control environments. So a being that could live on a gaseous planet and as a gaseous being can come to Earth in their vessel and land in these underground bases that are under the Irish Isles and live in there freely, because that's the way they were originally designed 54 million years ago. It's for beings who were refugees from their planets being destroyed, that they could come here and have a safe place to live.
Mm-hmm. My goodness.
And that's what the other part of the Emerald Isles represents. It's the Earth heart love that allows other species who have lost their world to come and have a home.
Yes. Yes. My God. I can hardly take it all in. It's just so amazing. The Titanic. Yes.
Mhm.
But that
You know,
was,
they built quite a few ships. They didn't build
they
just
did.
one.
Oh, I know. I know. I know.
Those
Now,
ships were taking the energy of Ireland across the oceans and connecting it to different sacred geometry systems. And they were essentially trying to counter hijack the sacred geometry system with a massive metal resonating boat.
Good God.
And then,
I
yeah,
just
I know it's huge.
carry
It's
on.
huge.
It's enormous. Yeah, yeah.
And
Dear God.
those guys at the timeline projects are going to be pissy with me, but you know what? It's time to tell the truth.
We need the truth.
That's right.
We
We need
have
the
to
truth.
face it. We need it now.
Hmm.
We can't just sit back and say, oh, no, no, I don't really want to know that. But
Hmm.
yes, you do. You will need it. And the sooner you learn the situation we're in and how to deal with it, the better. And the better we can rescue everybody from the disaster that's planned for us.
Hmm. So let's talk Ireland.
Oh,
Ireland, World War II. What
yes.
do you remember about Ireland during World War II?
Well, I was a very little girl then,
But you know the
and
history.
I know the history, yes.
What's it?
But
What was it like in Ireland in World War II?
well, you know, my biggest memory of it was my mother sending food parcels to England. Every day she would send food parcels to England. And we were praying for the people in England who were going through hell. But you see, I then discover that it was England that wanted the war and created the situation
That's
for the
right.
war.
The very beginning. Hmm.
Yeah, I know.
And the Irish people, starving, sent food to their to their conquerors.
That's right. Because we felt sorry for them.
Yeah, felt
I
sorry for
know.
them because of the propaganda. So Ireland, World War II. We all know of the Third Reich's occult goals. Well, the British had their own occult goals. The Americans had their
Yes.
own occult goals. Ireland was the place that MI6 did all its occult stuff.
Really?
Oh yes. There were so many secret rituals done in Irish ceremonial places all throughout the Irish Isles during World War II that it'll make the Nazi expression that we've known about occult look like kids play.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Good God. Another thing I would love to know is why did the British hang on to the 6 counties of Ireland, the north of Ireland? What is so important about that?
Technology.
Thing?
There are vessels embedded into the continental shelf 30 to 40 miles under the Irish Isles, hundreds of them. And these are
Yeah.
massive war vessels that were phased out of reality and blended into the rock. And the only way you can get them out of the rock is to unlock Tara Hill.
Aha.
Once you unlock Tara Hill, you have an access to weapon systems that only need one or two human beings inside them because they can psychically interact with an artificial intelligence that can predict the future. And these are solar system destroying vessels. They can come in and destroy planets.
My
Siege holds planets because these
God.
was the backup systems to when the remote assassination systems were being blocked. They directly put vessels in and around planets and these are called blockade mines, where these vessels could have no people on them, but have
Mm.
tens of millions of psychic vicious ghosts inside them that would
Ah.
that would go and infest the local system, and it would be
Mm.
a psychic disaster zone.
Mm. Mhm.
So these vessels are locked underneath there in those particular counties where there have been extensive amounts of digs and investigations into these tunnel systems where they can learn how to unmanifest the reality rules that have blended the phased realities of these vessels deep under the rock, and then remove them. That's what was done in Afghanistan. That was the whole reason for the war in Afghanistan. The whole reason of the creation of Osama bin Laden was there were tens of thousands of vessels, which were highly advanced war vessels that are stuck all throughout the Afghanistan mountains as the backup system to Earth invasion, which is part of the Earth fortification system, which again leads back to Tar Hill, which then leads to Area 51, which was an attempt to hijack the tunnel system and create a new master lock system where they were just going to try to um, what is these tunnels are out of phase with reality, and as soon as Tara Hill is activated, the tunnels, instead of being out of phase, suddenly become in phase, and you can get in then access to all the master networks of tunnels. And then Area 51 tried to hijack that concept and become the new nexus point to access to all tunnels.
Mm. Oh my goodness. Oh, I mean, it's just so much to take in. I'm.
It's a lot.
It is a hell of a lot. It is a hell of a lot. My
Well, I don't sugarcoat it anymore, and
no.
I haven't been using the decaf coffee today, so
No, no. We need to know the truth. We have to face it now and deal with it.
deal with it. That our
Yeah.
race history is gigantic, and our little minds in this belief system that's keeping them little is having a tough time of looking up and going, "We are that big."
Yeah. I know.
Just wait till the Chinese people begin to find out what's inside those mountains. It isn't gold.
What is it?
It's an understanding that the genetic expression of the Chinese started here on this world, and it was a specific skin suit system that overtook the world many, many different times in an attempt to bring true heart space back, until finally
Mm-hmm.
their species was hijacked, and trillions of them were forcibly removed from this world, so that their soul shards would be stuck here in non-resolution.
Oh my God.
Right. And you know that whole Chinese one child thing? It's so
Yes.
that they can't bring their soul families in.
Oh my God. That is appalling.
Exactly. So the Oriental species, when this first contact is done, you have brothers and sisters out there who have been waiting millions of years for you, and they've been denied that. And your government
Mm.
that has the one child system, you're going to look at that, and you're going to look at the people that enforce that, and then
Yes.
you are going to pick up your pitchforks and torches, or you're going to pick up your signs, or you're going to pick up your internet, and you are going to change this reality.
Yes. Yes. My goodness. The Chinese people, they're so controlled.
Yep. Are they more controlled than the Irish?
Well, do you know, I wonder. Because, you know, we were so controlled by the church. And when I look back on how I grew up, I was raped by a priest, but
Mm-hmm.
you weren't allowed to say anything
Mm-hmm.
because if you did, you'd be put away. It would be your fault, not the priest's.
Right.
I don't know many people of my age in Ireland who weren't raped or buggered.
By priests.
It's, yeah, that was the norm.
It was the normal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Go to your prayers and get your beating.
that's right.
Yep.
They controlled us to such a degree. But you know what? I never allowed them to control my mind.
Right.
I might have physically gone to church, but my
But you
heart
weren't there.
wasn't in it. I
Exactly.
wasn't there. No, not at
Just your
all.
skin suit was there, and that's all that they
That's
wanted.
right. That's right. That's right. And my mother was the same. Even though, yes, she showed her face, but she wasn't locked into it.
Right.
But
What do you see as the repercussions now as the child abuse is becoming common knowledge throughout Ireland? What's the backlash like at the local levels?
people are not prepared to put up with it anymore, and they're not prepared to keep quiet about it anymore. Whereas before there was the shame of it. You didn't dare say it because you would be ashamed. Now, no. You stand up and you say, this person did so and so. That's it. Face the and they disappear now. The priests, they jump on the next flight out of Ireland
That's right.
if they're exposed. And you know, the Irish people, what I would love is for them to take back all the property that the Vatican took from the Irish. All the land, it doesn't belong to the Vatican. It has no right to it whatsoever.
They can nationalize it, and that would be a
Yeah,
really, really big step.
I know, I know. And
Maybe
all
that's
the
something.
schools,
Maybe that's something that's out there that one of the listeners may want to do.
yes,
Start a letter writing campaign to the Irish government to nationalize all of the lands that are owned by the Catholic Church
yes,
and make them public domain, public parks. And if a church still wants to practice there, it needs to pay.
That's
payback of
right.
people.
Yes. Yes.
We're not going to stop them there, but they will not do dishonest activities there. Everything will be transparent.
Yes.
That's what
Yes,
the
it
church can't
is.
handle is transparency.
Oh, don't I know it? Don't I know it? I mean, I helped to organize the fourth international conference on child abuse in London so many, many years ago. And I wasn't as wise then as I am now. And I asked all the religions to sort of come forward and offer help to these children who are being really badly abused. And I wrote a letter to Cardinal Hume and asking for help. Uh, I got a letter back. Dear, it was Mrs. Ford at the time. There is a nun in the East End dealing with such matters. Yours sincerely, Cardinal Hume. I biked a letter back to him. Dear Cardinal Hume, I'm about to release your letter to the press to show what a caring cardinal we have. He biked a letter back to me, and my goodness, he changed his tune. But you see, the church doesn't care. It
No, it
just
doesn't.
doesn't care.
It does not care.
No.
It's not meant to care. Like I told you before, it's a management system that needs hyper corrupt people on 4 timelines. So it's constantly trying to recruit and create the people that would fit into its organization.
Yeah, I know.
It's just a meat grinder. Soul psychic meat grinder for those
Yes.
people that are functioning as part of the system of domination and control. They've lost just about everything in their world.
How soon do you think the Vatican will just crumble and get out of our lives?
Well, what did the Pope say just before Easter?
I don't
I mean, I
remember.
don't really pay attention to the Pope, but he's saying that gays can be allowed in. There'll be female priests. I have a very close friend that was very high up in the Vatican. Will simply not identify who he is, and
Yes.
I asked him, "Can it change?" He's hell no. It cannot change.
No.
It is built to not change. It has
That's
survived
right.
2,000 years of not changing.
That's right.
2,000 years the child abuse has been there.
That's
Okay?
right.
It's not going to change. It cannot change. Only the people in the local levels can begin reforming the power that it has
Yes.
on your
Yes.
local level, just like Ireland's done.
Mhm.
Okay, we've got about 7 minutes till we take a break, and I've got a whole bunch of questions that have just popped in here.
Wow.
Let me see. Can you please explain sacred geometry? I only know it's connected to the flower of life. Sacred geometry is a concept that light sees. When we have, let's say, you have the Metatron's cube or any of the other pieces of sacred geometry, flower of life, those concepts can be imprinted onto a land based off of human hand interaction that puts intention into them that leads away from the natural expression of the flower of life, which is to open your mind. So if you get trapped in a brick system, a brick and mortar system that has the flower of life built into it on a macro scale over many hundreds of miles, you will want to be in that energy because it's natural. But little do you know that every other brick is connected to these buildings that house, hold, and store negative energies from negative dream worlds or from ghosts that are trapped in there or are storing such high dense energies that when you walk by it, the energy begins attaching to you and you become a beacon for psychic parasites, or different buildings are literally places where psychic parasites breed and breed and breed, and before you know it, you're stuck in this psychic soup of negativity because the sacred geometry is keeping it all there, and our belief in it that it's doing good for us, when in fact it's just keeping us trapped in this soup of shame, blame, and guilt, and everything else that we want to create. So that's sacred geometry system, fully a little more explained. The next one is, do you have something to say about the Bosnian pyramids? Oh, I have talked about the Bosnian pyramids many, 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 many times. They are another advanced weapons system and defensive system that's linked into the other 40 control buildings where you can begin turning off the military systems that the system of domination control has about, I don't know, 80% control over. These are orbital bombardment defensive systems and orbital encampment systems where you can rapidly defend your planet from an orbital bombardment. So the Bosnian pyramids represent the ability to access those defensive systems, which also has some access to those vessels that are trapped in different mountains and in out of phase realities. So that's the importance of the Bosnian pyramids. The next one, I've noticed that the circular formation, that Tara Hill, you can explain that, Andrew. Tara Hill is a mound building situation, and the circle of it actually has specific inscriptions on it. There would be no grass on it. It would be a massive spell. You can think of a, language written over it. And it was much bigger at the time too. So you would empower it with your every aspect of your essence and ancestors. Next question. Veronica, we English love the Irish and Ireland. I can't speak for our government, okay? Up to now, I thought of sacred geometry as something sacred, good, spiritual, enhancing, though, as I understand, Andrew is using this term, it is more about the knowledge techniques computed. Corrupted, correct. It's corrupted, fully corrupted,
Yeah.
so that you lose focus of where the original reality is. So that is
Mm.
how sacred geometry can be used against you. How does magic and achieving highest grand, which I know of, Ipsimus, is all about? As far as I know, when you reach this grade, you become one with what? What happens? Um, You're asking about a particular belief system, and when it comes to oneness, there are millions of forms of oneness, and the heart can experience all forms of oneness simultaneously or independently. So one's individual journey or path into the awakening is their own, and there are millions of belief systems that will lead people into the infinity. But currently, right now, the major religions, none of them got it right, and the Buddhists were the closest, and they still got it wrong, as we said in the previous interviews. As for the particular expression that you're talking about, it's your belief system. And if you believe yourself to find your in oneness, that's good, but always look for your limitations. And whenever you see yourself arguing for your limitations, ask yourself why. We create expectations to create limitations to create fear. And ultimately, there are many people who are afraid of being one with themselves so they can ultimately be one with their land, which is one with the planet, which is one with the source of this galaxy, which is one with the source of this universe, which is blended into the 17 other universes of incarnation. Do you have any other questions, Veronica? Well, how
Oh
about we
my
just
goodness.
how about we go on break now? We've put
Yes.
out a tremendous amount of information.
I know.
So Santi, our intrepid producer, why don't you set up the Google Hangout to put up a break, and then we will take a break, about a 6, 7, 8 minute break, and we will refill our waters, recover, and process some of this information. When we come back in, we're going to be talking more galactic history in Ireland.
I won't even move. I won't change anything.
Okay.
Not taking any risks tonight.
And we're still live, waiting for the intrepid producer to. There we go.
Right.
We got to mute our mics now. All right.
Oh.
And we are back.
Oh, how
Welcome,
wonderful.
everyone. Here we are. And we still got a little music playing in the background. There we go.
That's better.
We are back. Welcome to the second part of Adventures in Reality with your host, Andrew Bartzis, the Galactic Historian. Joining me again is Veronica King. Welcome back, Veronica. How you doing?
I'm very excited with all the information coming through. I
Uh,
will
we,
need to listen to it several times to be able to take it in properly.
yes. So which angle do you want to go into now? The last show we were talking about leaders coming forward, and we were talking about possibly doing a conceptual concept of an event between London and Tara Hill where we could go to different sacred places and begin to reclaim our sovereign powers.
Yes, there's a particular lady who has responded and wants to be part of this. Her name is Jean. She's a wonderful lady, and she runs the Real Truth blog, and it's fantastic. She's very brave, and she is very excited about being involved with us in this. And I think she'd be wonderful. So we've got one already.
Well, maybe what we can do is bring her on one of the shows at one point in time because we're going to do some more shows
Yes,
promote this whole idea so that it's no longer just a concept that we
yes,
show the leadership that the leadership here is stepping forward and doing something
yes,
significant. It simply needs the people and the place and the time to simply say we want our sovereignty too.
yes, yes. And I feel people will come from different parts of the world. You know, I think every country will respond.
Me too.
Yeah, they really will, because we have had enough of struggling to survive. Because nobody's actually living, we're just surviving. And some people are having great difficulty surviving because of the banks, what they did. When Monty died in 2004, he told me what the banks were planning to do, and nobody believed me at the time. They all said, don't be ridiculous, we'd know about it. Well, my goodness, they didn't know about it, and they've learned the hard way.
That's right.
But nothing they could have done anyway, really.
Hmm. What else did Monty tell you about that came true?
Oh my God, there was so much. Um, the oh, the earthquake in Japan,
Japan?
the 11th of March, I think he said it was going to be.
Yep.
And I told my daughter, and I told one or two other people, and they laughed at me. Don't be ridiculous, mother, you know. The first person to ring me that morning was my daughter. Mum,
He was
there
right.
has been a, you know. And I said, yes, I told you, didn't I, you know. And I've had lots of experiences like that, which is, yeah, it's not very nice because the people of Japan,
Hmm. And
I like,
it shows the responsibility that you have on your shoulders.
yeah.
If
I
you
mean,
know,
some,
who do you tell and who's going to believe you?
exactly, exactly. You know, it's, I've been attacked by saying various things that, that Jesus never died on the cross because that particular Jesus didn't exist. Oh my God, I was pilloried for that. And yet now, the Vatican has admitted it was all a lie.
Correct.
So,
Well, the remote viewers throughout history have also known that Jesus was never put on the cross.
I know.
The whole story of Lazarus, all of that false. When you
Yeah,
take those big sections out of their belief system, what's left?
there's nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. It's all based on, and I mean, you go to Bethlehem, and that's the exact spot he was born. Well, he never existed, so he couldn't have been born there.
Hmm.
They have made money out of something that was never, ever a reality.
And they've taken money for something that was never a reality by those times that they say, give us 10% of everything you own.
That's right. I mean, in Ireland, even the time of the Holocaust, they were still collecting money from the starving people.
That's right. Shaking them down.
That's right. That's right. And I had a grandaunt who lived with us when I was young. She died when I was about 16. And she was quite old then. And she used to tell us about times past. And she said, people were very poor. And they would have to hide when they knew the priest was coming. Because when the priest was coming, you had to give him money.
Mhm. And if he didn't have
And
any money, what would he do? You couldn't get communion.
that's right.
And if you couldn't get communion, what did that made you? It ostracized you in the whole community.
Yes, that's right. Oh,
Sounds like a
yes.
mafia.
It's more
Sounds
like
like
the
a
mafia than
mafia.
anything
Exactly.
else,
It's
I
like
can
the
tell you, my
mafia.
dear. I know, I know. It was, oh, what they're responsible for is just so horrific. Now, we have been shown the Vatican absolutely reduced to dust. Am I right?
What is dust?
Good question. Um,
You see, you have polarity in your words. And you
yes,
have a bit of zealotism in your words because of what you've
yes,
experienced, and rightfully so.
yes, yes,
But when it comes down to the original reality rules and the original interpretation of what's been going down here, the church will go through its time of truth telling. And
yeah,
that's the worst possible spiritual outcome for those people that are a part of it.
yes,
They'll be hooked to technology that will show when they're lying and how many dimensions that they're lying on. So as they're lying to our face, there'll be a screen above them that shows us the truth.
yes,
And as those beings realize that they cannot lie anymore and they begin to tell the truth, they'll go through their own healing. And there will be people out there who will begin to have enough compassion and forgiveness for
yes,
them so
yes,
that they could pass on in this world karmic free, and so that the system of karma we created doesn't last, because they will be the last holders of the karma, because
yeah,
that was what they came here to do this last lifetime,
that's right.
just like we came here to be the ones that awaken. And
Yes,
those beings that are the last holders, they're great teachers,
yeah,
great teachers to the 7 future generations that incarnate
mhm,
in this whole universe,
yeah.
not just this world.
I know, I know.
All of us become great teachers. All of
Yes,
us take the copy of the Akashic record of what we did in this paradox for 54 million
yes,
years, all of the decisions we had to make, both good and bad.
mhm,
We take that record, we take that knowingness with us, and we return it, this wisdom and this knowledge, back to the worlds we came from originally.
yes. My goodness. I don't want revenge or anything like that. I just want
Truth.
the child abuse to stop.
And
I
everything
want
else.
and everything else they're doing. I just want it to stop.
Mhm.
That's all.
Mhm. They could have stopped it at any point in time.
I know they could.
Snap of a finger. The
Yes,
same thing with any local government. Snap of a finger.
that's right.
It's the social consciousness that prevented it, and it's those artificial belief systems, artificial intelligence belief systems, that made sure that the police wouldn't arrest the local priest.
Oh, I know. Didn't matter what they did.
Nope, never
They
gonna
were
happen.
above the law. They were
That's right.
above the law. Yeah, I know. And, in this country, I helped organize the Fourth International Conference on Child Abuse, as I said,
Hmm.
and I had people in my office giving every detail you could imagine about the people who were abusing them.
Hmm.
And the people from Scotland Yard came to me, and listened, and they said, there is nothing we can do because of who they are. What do
Exactly.
you do? Yeah,
What do you do?
yeah,
Ultimately, all you can do is create in your own space, and when they try to infringe on your space, you have to deny them all energy access, so that the
yes,
frequency you have is so powerful that the initial being that's there to bring in this energy cannot even exist in your field of love.
yeah, I know. We're learning who we are, we're
Hmm.
learning
What we are.
what we are, yes. And it's all new to us. You're very fortunate. You have been able to access all this information. But for people like me, it's all new. It's all,
You know, in Germany, a lot of the people there actually have a percentage of money taken out of their actual paycheck that goes to the church.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
The Roman Church,
Oh, yeah.
whether they're Catholics or not.
Yes, because they're paying
Oh,
off the ability to have the network with the Catholic system so they can do business with other Catholics.
oh my God. The Germans have really had a tough time. They are paying out for so many things they were not guilty of.
No, ever.
I know, I know. And
So, go ahead.
it's wonderful that so many people in Germany are very excited about what we're doing.
Hmm.
And it's wonderful. Carry on.
So what I was thinking here is maybe we get a chance and just brainstorm on air and let the audience be a part of this creation process of
Yes,
what it is that sovereign leaders coming together could do. Let's just set a stage here. If we could have 100 leaders who want to
yes,
organize a group in your local area to arrive in London and to be a part of a ceremony that revokes the sacred geometry energy in a convention center or someplace in the city of London. And we all get on buses and drive to a port city, revoke the contracts of all the port cities of London, of England, and then travel through the port onto Ireland and do another ceremony on the other port, revoking all the sacred geometry energy there, and then we go to Ishnock and Tara Hill, and we settle in Tara Hill for a night of ceremony with 10,000 drummers
yes,
waiting for us with this sovereign
yes.
acceptance of brand new energy as we become the new leaders who take the torch fire. And yesterday I said, whether are there people out there willing to put seeds around their neck and bring those to this place? Because a great, powerful ceremony of seeding this world with sovereignty can happen from Tara Hill.
Yes. I think that's a wonderful idea. Wonderful idea. And the Irish people are ready for it.
Hmm.
And there are a lot of people in England who are doing very good work as well with ley lines. And so they would be involved in what we're doing too.
Hmm. Maybe we can
And
get some ley line people that want to be there and help create the ceremonies.
yes, why not? Yes. And we will, by the way, my friend that you spoke to the other night said he would be happy to help organize the buses and the hotels and whatever accommodation is needed. He would be happy to do that for
See,
us.
it's already coming together.
You see?
The universe is just waiting for us to say yes and follow through with it.
Yes, yes,
That is the type of
yes.
potential and spiritual locomotion that's going on in the worlds right now. And we simply have to
Yeah,
get out of our own way and start doing.
I know. And we're ready.
Mhm.
We will do it. And we will do it in when? September? Beginning of September?
Yeah, about 4 months from now, we'll need about that much time to make sure we have everyone is aware about and be able to plan because not everybody's just able to take a week off
Yeah.
in the middle of the summer,
Hmm, hmm.
let alone being able to plan the trips, the passports, and all that other stuff. So
I know. I know.
So
Well, you
September,
see,
middle, or end of
yeah,
September. What's the
yeah.
weather best like in Ireland?
Uh, beginning of as near the beginning of September as possible. Yeah.
Okay. What will the weather be like there?
Oh God, you could have four seasons in one day in this part of the world.
Exactly. I know.
And
I know
it's,
that feeling.
know,
I grew up in Ohio, so
oh my God, yes. Just never go anywhere without an umbrella. But yes, we must. Drummers, yes, because drumming is big in Ireland.
hmm.
The Irish drums. Have you ever heard the Irish
Oh, I
drums?
have. I have heard quite a few of the Irish drum.
Oh,
Drummers,
yes.
bagpipers. The more noise we make, the
Yep,
the more awake the land gets. The louder our
yes,
footsteps, the more awake the land gets. The more the land
yes.
becomes a part of that ceremony, until every
That's right.
drummer and every footstep is in a common, fully perceptible rhythm.
Yes, yes. Oh, the Irish people will go for this in a big way. They really will. They've had enough.
We'll have Guinness there, and they'll be good.
Yes. I've never I've never even drank a glass of wine in my life, I'm afraid. I've never been a drinker. I know the Irish have a reputation for drink, but I've never. It's yes, it's going to be wonderful.
Yes.
And we'll try and get deals
I'm sure
wherever
we'll
we
be able to make
can.
deals. Maybe what we can do is make a networking site. For those people that are in Facebook right now, if you go
Yeah.
to Andrew Bartzis as my Facebook fan page, there'll be a link to another group for this show, and we can start organizing people from there who might know about travel agencies, hotels, and we can begin a network organization and start some commonly shared documents among the people who want to be leaders, so all the
Hmm.
planning can be done ahead of time, and it makes it very easy for you to sign up. We'll be able to reflect it on both of our websites, as well
Yes.
as maybe as somebody that's a travel agent that would want to be a part of this and sponsor this. We would like
Oh
sponsors.
God.
We'd
We
we'd
need
love bloggers out there to sponsor us. And we're not
yes,
talking sponsoring maybe money. Sponsor the concept.
yes.
Sponsor the concept. That's it. Say that you say, yes, it is time to reclaim sovereignty. And yes, in the next 4 months, I'll write a couple posts and make sure that this gets the proper show viewings that it needs, so that as we ascend and descend from all different layers and timelines and dimensions to Tara Hill, which is the key to it all, which is the key to the understanding of multidimensional gateways that exist, the hijacks of two reality, going back to the original reality rules or staying on the sacred reality rules of the Giza pyramids. One perspective is Giza is where the alien land, another perspective is where humanity began in Ireland. It's the two concepts, the external versus internal. We're an internal species, not an external species.
Yes. And you see the Irish government is still kowtowing to the British government.
Oh yeah, hold on. I've got a
Really?
bunch of questions here.
Uh,
Hold on. Hi, Andrew and Veronica. This is a very difficult time for people who are starting to come awake. Why are people being told light forces coming to liberate Earth? Because they don't want you to actually do anything.
that's
As I've
right.
said for so many times, no one's going to rescue you. You're the only one that can do this yourself through self-healing and self-nurturing, self-education, self-sovereignty. Until you begin to go internal instead of external, your soul shards will still be spread around this world, and they'll still be planning future lives, because you don't have enough internal and spiritual energy to maintain a creation for your future life. So they'll create it for you because they have your energy. So why are they telling you that? Again, because it's belief system, belief system. It's a belief system war and a propaganda war.
Yeah.
Can you explain love from the neutral perspective? It is love without expectation or condition. You kind of answered your question there, without expectation or
Mm.
condition. That is the true form. And neutral
Yes.
love also allows for some polarity, because love is always in fluctuation, and love always needs some bit of polarity to keep the chemistry flowing, whether it's a male-female expression of polarity, or whether it's a different sexual or sensual or mystical expression of that energy. It still requires the fluctuation of the sine wave into it.
Mhm.
So it is it allows more perception of love on the different dimensions. And then there's love that you have for the different ancestral beings that you know, which is the love at a whole new frequency and scale. Okay. Are we going to be able to get to the Irish tunnels anytime? Yes, there actually are military organizations that could actually get in there, but they cannot go in deep. They don't have the proper reality control devices inside their DNA. This is what I'm interested in. Where did life begin?
Ah,
Life here on the planet. I already kind of explained it in the earlier section that life came here directly. It did not seed start here. This world was not a seed started world. It was a direct travel here world, and then they got invaded. So it didn't start here. Where did the creation of life? I have done a number of shows on the creation of life from the very beginning, the middle to the end. This video will be released in the next couple of weeks. It's between me and Linda Cosmos. You can check that out on YouTube. There are some clips there. Couple of questions. If you have time, what is the origin role of the Isle of Wight? Was Jesus' connection to Ireland? Who were Nefertiti, Akhenaten to Ireland? Those are a lot of questions, and ultimately they are Irish people. They were also Sirius A, Sirius B, and Orion hybrids in human skin suits that could shapeshift into other skin suits. They were multidimensional, multifunctional beings that coexisted on this world as part of a divinity path and a human path at the same time to make sure that there were particular DNA lineages that survived the great wiping out of the humanity multiple times because there were DNA lineages that could create internal infinite belief systems from birth, and that ultimately would make sure the Galactic Ascension machine would fail, so they had to make sure that the DNA no longer existed in this world. As for the Isle of Wight and all that other stuff and Jesus, that's another long story. Isle of Wight is a place where psychic telescopes exist, where also some remote assassinations were done, which broke a massive treaty violation in 318 AD, which caused major significant backlashes in the quarantine field here. That's a longer story here. Were the pyramids in? Are there pyramids? Yes, there are pyramids all throughout Ireland, all throughout the underwater areas too. Will we be able to release the ones that are stuck? Yes, you can release the ones that are stuck, but it requires people that have the remote healing and remote clearing skills and are able to transit those beings to the light. If not, you are going to be severely affected. And it is your ego and your vanity that can put you in a scenario that the being, it tells you or shows you it gone to the light, but it didn't really do it, and you would have no real way to know. And the next thing you'll realize, it's inside your physical body, feeding on you, surging on you, and your tailbone might swell a little, or you'll find that you can't lie flat on your back. That's because a being has entered your tailbone. All based on the ley lines. What do we believe? Jesus never existed in this reality. No, Jesus did exist. He was a solar being. It's just that his story has been completely hijacked. All right, can you give us some insights on how we can work with our angels and soul families even more? Soul families, it starts by you indicating to yourself before you go to sleep that you're going to have the imagery of the North or South Pole Aurora Borealis. That's where the natural dreaming mind of Earth is, and that's where you can find your ancestral relations and begin to have ancestral family reunions. And it is only you who can create this intention before you go to sleep so that that dream world has the potential for you to even remember it when you awake from the great sleep the next morning. Okay, that's all those questions right there. Veronica, did you have any questions about that?
no, I was just busy listening.
Yeah.
It's dreaming. I used to dream a lot, but I don't seem to dream much anymore. Why?
You're being protected by Monty, and your dream world can be a little dangerous for you right now, and they need
Yeah.
to make sure that you're not off half cocked with a big sword in your hand taking down the cabal yourself. So they kind of just put you in a big white room with a whole bunch of teddy bears and people to talk to, and when you fall asleep, you have a good time, and you wake up rested instead of tired and from always fighting.
Yes. It's
And Monty has already kind of told you that
I know, I know, I
you're
know,
full of piss and vinegar at times, is what he said.
I know. Oh dear God. Yes. Right. Are we going for September?
Yes, September
Yes.
would be the greatest concept.
Right.
We want to get 10,000 drummers there.
We'll do that in Ireland.
Let's see if we
That
can
should
get 1,000 people to make the bus trips. 75 people per bus. We're talking 20 bus tour.
yes.
A 20 bus tour to a sacred site and then to a port, provoking contractual energy, will build up this massive wave of energy when you get to the port. And
Hmm.
there'll be some incredible spiritual experiences for people there.
Yes.
Incredible. We will need volunteers at the different places to act as remote clearing and temporary clearing people, because there will be people energetically who don't want us to reclaim our sovereignty
Of course.
worldwide. And we will counter that with love by waiting for each stop. There'll be people waiting there to make sure those people that are doing the sovereign revocations are spiritually clean from the projections of negative zealots out throughout the world.
Yes.
And we can have those people who can't be there, who can be a part of a remote clearing unit or team that clears the port or the buses before they arrive or as they arrive or throughout the whole journey, because we can have GPSs on the bus that show us where we are. So there can be a continuous energetic support from all those people who can't be there.
Yeah. Now, Andrew, can we film the ceremonies at Ishnok
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Tara so it
Absolutely.
goes out live to everyone all over the world?
We can do that, and we were talking about doing a webinar that would be able to pay for the cameras that would go for that. When
Yeah.
you're outdoors, you don't know what the weather's going to be. Cameras need specific kinds of lenses and filters, and there's no power
Mhm.
there, so you have to bring your own.
Yeah.
Where you'll have to set up a scenario where you'll have regular power. You don't do it on one camera. You'll need several cameras that are
Mhm.
professionals,
Yeah.
and that costs money. That doesn't, unless
I know.
there's a donation organization that wants to volunteer 5 camera operators and all the technology and the post operation. The post is where the vast
Mhm.
majority of the money goes in, because you can't release an audio that's a single track mono. Everyone's going to complain, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the facts for those people out there. Cameras cost money, buses cost money, all of that costs money.
Mhm.
Veronica and I are going to put together the infrastructure. We're going to find the people that want to help us. And then when we do a webinar, we're going to explain what we're doing it for, so that there can be
Yes.
cameras, so that there can be a legacy recording of what we did there, so that all the different teachers who do show up and
Mhm.
get interviewed, because we are open to all sovereign expressions, have a voice that goes out to the rest of the world. Because it isn't about Veronica and me, it's about
No.
every single individual who shows up in their sovereign expression and is willing to tell us their truth without zealotism and capitalism behind their voice.
Yes. We are creating history.
That's right.
We're writing the history of the future. We're living it. Not writing it, we're living it.
We're living moment to moment.
Yes. Yes.
In each moment we live, we create a future potential that is greater than the potential of the future lives the system of domination and control is planning for us.
No.
They do not have the energy to outmatch our potential.
No. 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 Monty said they're just losing their control,
Left and
losing their
right.
control, and they're now in survival mode. But they won't go easily. They will fight to the end.
Yeah, I have said this many times.
Yeah.
Less than 15% of those guys will fight to the end.
Yeah.
And those are the ones who have to take power of their cold dead hand, because they're the characters in this dramatic story that chose to be the ones at the end.
Yeah.
And their legacy and teaching will teach trillions of other beings who are on the verge of being that being at the last, at the end, saying, you know what? I don't want that in my Akashic history of
Yeah.
being that controlled.
Hmm. Yeah. My God. Yeah.
That's right.
Yes. So let's hope.
Let's
Well,
hope. Let's pray. So
let's
while we're talking
pray.
about this, let's talk about the contract revocations.
They are so important. I did them again. I did them shortly before we came on air.
Would you care to share the reading of the sacred feminine, so the audience can hear it from your voice?
Hold on, I'll have to go and get it. It's in the other room.
Okay, go ahead and grab
Hold
it real
on.
quick.
All right.
I think this will be very beneficial as we've been talking about this. From the power of Veronica's own voice and her own experience, you will begin to hear, feel, see, and understand why it's important to say these out loud. And thank you for all the questions that have been coming in. We really, really enjoy questions. If you guys like to stop over on Facebook or the Galactic Historian website, there's also a link to make comments over there. If you'd like to join the League of Consciousness Explorers, it's part of my private forums. You can also go and do that. We have access to private material and content. And after this video, for those that are already signed up for the League of Consciousness Explorers, you'll be able to join a private webinar where I'll be answering specific questions about what's going on in our modern history starting at 4 p.m. Pacific today. And welcome back, Veronica.
Yes, my dear. Right. Soul contract removal to free the divine feminine. I call to all spiritual contracts that exist within my past, present, and future beings, selves, and existence in this dimension and time stream, and all time streams above and below the Earth-centric scene wave of coexistence. At this moment, in the ever-present co-creating moment, I summon all DNA lineage ancestors to create a unified, proper spiritual court of equity, so I may find remedy and resolve with all contracts that have inserted fine print during the pre-birth and birth process. I call forth the proper spiritual court of equity to hear my decree of contract removal. I revoke all spiritual contracts with earth-based religions, cultures, belief systems, and industries that dominate and control the divine feminine power in our world and create an energetic imbalance that affects every man, woman, and child on the planet. I call forth all ancestors of all soul relations to hold space in this spiritual court of equity. I call to Earth Mother and all her light denizens within all inner and outer space to come forward and occupy the spiritual court of equity. O great mystery, who is the source of all power, I call to you. Come with your sacred synchronicity so all beings may hold space with unity consciousness. I hereby revoke contracts of all religions and cultural belief systems that place the feminine in a dominated position of inequality. These include the projections of unequal pay, the inability for a woman to earn a living, to own land or a business, to receive an education of her choosing. I do not consent to the feminist movement that was created and funded by the CIA to separate a woman from her divine feminine power, foster a hatred for men, and create separation and division in the soul family unit. I hereby revoke all cultural belief systems that create the expectations of a woman's duty to hold an unrealistic burden alone and suffer in silence. I do not consent to all social policing systems that have been put in place to make a woman feel she is too sensitive, too emotional, out of control in an attempt to gaslighting a woman's soul to make her feel like she's unstable or insignificant. I hereby revoke all contracts of cultural belief systems where female children are murdered at birth, sexually mutilated as supposed rite of passage, sold off in billion-dollar child pornography industry, or trafficked as sex slaves. I do not consent to the porn industry that has been breeding ground for sexual perversion, spiritual contracts, and the exploitation, degradation, victimization, and bastardization of the divine feminine power. I hereby revoke the following spiritual sexual perversion contracts that are targeted at separating a woman from her divine feminine power. All group sex and polygamous programs that are a perversion of divine sexuality aimed at making a woman feel she is somehow not good enough. All double standards in cultural belief systems where recreational sexual promiscuity, multiple wives, harems, and mistresses are allowed and celebrated for a man, but cause social ruin for a woman. All programs that create projections that men put on women while masturbating, as well as perverted fantasies that are used as a barrier between the heart space of a man and a woman in a sacred sexual bond. I do not consent to these spiritual sexual perversion contracts. You have no power over me. I hereby declare Earth Mother is in dominion with me, as well as my soul, family, and my ancestors. I declare I am now clean from these projections of sexual perversion, and I return to the source of innocence as a divine feminine sovereign being. I hereby revoke all contracts and concepts created in innocence or blissfully ignorant states of being. I hereby declare a new form of spiritual and physical cleanliness. I revoke all previous self-created concepts of cleanliness and any perverted attachments to myself. This new invocation of cleanliness removes all previous concepts of sacred sexuality, sensuality, recreational sex. I bring them all back to the 0 point of the fetus in the mother's womb. I reconnect all my DNA strands so that the heartbeat of Earth Mother. The sacred feminine is connected to her heart in her sacred feminine space and does not deny her menstrual cycle. She accepts it as the time of introspection, retrospection, and reflection. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with the entertainment and advertising industry that has created programs of self-hatred, low self-esteem, self-medication, self-mutilation, eating disorders, etc. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with the medical industry that has damaged a woman's health and ability to reproduce according to the natural laws of Earth Mother. Birth control drugs and other chemicals in our food, water, and air that cause sterility or over-sexuality, as well as clothing that is damaging to a woman's health, such as bras, heels, corsets, bound feet, and tampons. I revoke all birthing contracts created through C-sections, pregnancy drugs, prenatal x-rays, vaccinations, incubations, children who are not put on the mother's heart after birth, removal of the placenta and cutting of the umbilical cord, which can stay intact for up to 4 days to allow for a child's heart bond with the mother and father. I revoke all contracts that force a woman to carry and birth a soul that is not of their co-creative divine choice with their selected or bonded sacred masculine. This includes rape victims, teenage pregnancies, or forced and arranged marriages. I return to Earth, Mother, the natural incarnation grid. I now permanently delete the reincarnation grid from my soul existence. I do not consent to all programs aimed at making a woman feel too fat, too thin, too old, too young, too black, too white, too ethnic, too rich, too poor, or any protection at all that makes a woman feel that she is somehow not good enough. I hereby declare that I am more than good enough. I am infinite consciousness. I am God, Goddess incarnate. I am a sovereign being, and I hereby reclaim my divine feminine power in this spiritual court of equity. I call forth all the ancestors to honor this reading of my free will and enter it into the Earth Akashic record for all sentient kind to understand our freedom comes with the use of free will at all times.
Very powerful. Very, very powerful.
It is, isn't it?
Now imagine 1,000 women connecting to that energy and using that to tell the system of domination control at its heart of its sacred geometry system, I am a sovereign bubble of reality, and I reclaim all of my energy you have taken from me of all of my past, present, and future lives.
Oh
Imagine
my
a
God.
thousand men doing the mail contract revocation,
Yes.
or
Yes.
10,000 people doing the government revocation at Tara Hill, telling
Oh,
the ley lines of the world, we do not consent to propaganda. We do not consent to domination and control. We do not consent to committees that determine the quality of life for the rest of the world here. We are sovereign human beings who have rights
yes.
over our own bodies. You cannot make us transhuman. You cannot change our DNA. You cannot use timeline wars against us. We are the beings standing up and changing
Yes.
this now.
This is why we're on Earth at this moment.
That's right. No one's going to save you.
I know.
No one. Bonnie has
I
said
know.
that forever. I have said it forever.
I know.
December 21st, 2012, I was doing an all-day marathon titled the Nothing is Going to Happen Today marathon.
I know.
And nothing is going to
I
happen
know.
tomorrow, and the day after, and the day
That's
after.
right.
And it was
That's
the
right.
largest viewed free webinar, free all-day marathon radio show that we have ever done.
Yeah.
And so many people got awoken to the fact that nothing was going to happen.
That's
And then
right.
December 21st, 2013, what did I do? A Law and Sovereignty Sharing the Toolbox Marathon, because another year of nothing has happened. And
That's
another
right.
year of nothing will happen until people stand up to make something positive happen.
We make it happen. Nobody's nobody's going to come and make it happen for us.
That's right.
We do it. Nobody else.
Not other soul.
That's why when I see readings from channelers
Mm-hmm.
and everything's going to be fine. Oh, we will all just ascend and it will all be wonderful.
Blah. It's a
I
bunch of
know.
hooey. A bunch of light worker
I know.
dramatic hooey who think the dark doesn't really exist and is not going to let us leave. I'll
Well,
step on the little bit of the discernment mount here for just a private second, and that
yeah.
second is reaching out to those light workers out there. You don't need to be a light worker to be yourself. And there will be contract revocations that many light workers will need to do on the light worker industry that has been hijacked by our
Mm.
system of domination and control and put people into doing things that they believe are doing the greatest healing.
I
And in
know.
front of their eyes, they're seeing healing, but they're not seeing the damage that they're doing on the other levels.
Yeah.
And that is just sad that these people are being scammed like that.
I know. And they mean well. They mean
Yeah,
well.
they
This
mean
is the
well. They
thing.
mean to do well.
Yeah. But that's why I get a bit annoyed when people call me a channeler. I'm not.
I'm not a channel either. There are people that laid me. I do what I do live. There's no other being here.
Yep.
This is me reading the Akashic Record live. I've got 1,500 hours plus interviews of me doing this skill. For 20 years I've been doing this.
Hmm.
I have run into every detractor out there. And what
Oh.
do? I invite them onto my radio station,
Yep.
invite them onto my radio show. Why? Because when you experience who I am, you understand it. When you don't,
Yes.
you suppose. You make
That's
blog
right.
posts that are general statements based off of rumors from Facebook that have no summation to anything.
Mm.
I
I know.
remember reading one of a random email that I got sent that said I declare myself to be this omniscient being that is the only one that can read the Akashic records. I have never said I'm the only one that can keep
I
the
know.
Akashic records. I've said there are hundreds of others, but they choose not to be public. I made
Mm.
my choice to be public and do what I do. And I'm not the only one. I have a network of people that I can communicate that have skills far more impressive than what I can do. Far more. And you know what? They're not going to come out. They're not going to be leaders until they see 1,000 leaders in 1,000 streets in 1,000 countries in 1,000 different expressions. They won't. Because they're not here to be the ones that change the history. That's your
Yeah.
job. That's your
I
leaders.
know.
They're the ones that occupy the different parts of the revolution, or occupy different parts of the movement, and show people how to heal themselves inside the movement. They're not there for the cameras to be on them. They're the healers that make sure you can walk that extra mile on the march. They're that person that says that kind word to make sure you can actually get up out of bed that morning to say, I'm going to claim my sovereignty and I'm going to overcome this depression and I'm going to come to Tara Hill.
Hmm.
Comes from an infinitude amount of ways.
I know. I know. I know. We are the architects of the future, and we have
That's
to
right.
step up to the plate.
That's right. Here, I've got another question here.
Hmm.
This is a long way. Andrew, how I know when I should remove the triple seal I set in France, as I think it goes with the lion, ape, and grid lines and flow, but it's been hard times, so just not trying to cope. I honestly, I'm a very unique individual, and when I read questions like that, I can actually go direct to the source of the DNA skin suit that's doing it. One of a particular sense is, I don't think you really know what you're dealing with right there in that triple seal, what's going on in the apron network. I think that you have an incredible amount of information, but there's some key pictures that you're missing about the APIN network, and that's how Pumapunku in Bolivia affects all other grid lines here. And Pumapunku is going through a rapid descension in power right now because there's vessels that are over there that are using the natural energy field to literally drain energy out of our system so that these vessels can go into parts of the North or South Pole and prevent light particles from actually enter the aurora borealis. So the grid lines are directly intertwined to the aurora borealis, and I think that you better research and rethink your process before you do anything with the three seals, because you'll end up getting blasted by karma this lifetime that will come from your past, where people will emerge from your past, and they will take you down karmically. The Alpern network is a dangerous booby trap network. I'm sorry about being that blunt on the show, but when you send a question to a person like me, I'm going to give that frequency, and I don't normally answer questions. That it just happens to be, I'm quite familiar with people who are trying to work on that network, and they're getting the crap kicked out of them, left and right. Anyways, next question, Veronica.
I was busy listening to that. Sorry. Um, right.
We will be
We
able
made.
to write a specific contract revocation for
Yes.
baptism too. I saw that question pop in there.
Yes. 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 I've got one on my site, but if you want, you do one, and we'll put it up as well because
Yeah.
it's very, very important.
And if we could have some people that would like to be able to translate what some of the contract revocations into different languages, that would be very beneficial too.
I can do that.
Okay.
I've got somebody who would be very happy to do that.
Okay. Well, we're about the end of the show right here. I want to remind people, if they want to go to montaguekeen.com, they can check out all of Veronica's information, or they can go to galactichistorian.com and check out all of our stuff. We're both freely available on YouTube with thousands of hours of free material available. And we want to thank everyone for coming to the show. We're going to end a little bit early. We've put out a tremendous amount of information. I want to thank Santi and all the team over here at the Galactic Historian website for getting this incredible Google Hangout open. For all those people that are listening there and sending questions, for all those people in the future archives, hey guys, we are acknowledging you. We are multidimensional, multifunctional beings with far sight. And for all those people joining in the archives now and now and now, same message to you. And to Veronica, it has been a pleasure, and I look forward to doing more and more material with you until we can finally
Yes.
put out the concept that in September we are going to assemble on Tara Hill and reclaim
Yes.
our global sovereignty.
Yes. It's going to be wonderful. It's as Monty said, we are creating the history of the future.
That's right. We are
In
creating the
times
history
to
of the
come,
future. Yep.
they will be learning the history, what we are doing today.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Santi, why don't you take us away, and we are going to finish the show on an incredible high note of we are creating the future history right now.
Yes.
And for
Yes.
all you timeline viewers in future history, seeing this video in your third grade class, hey guys.